Anyway, we're gonna get into the iPhone. So I own the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Oh wow, I have to remember to work with a thinner angle. This is a 51.2
Yep.
RF right now, so yeah. iPhone 12 Pro Max. Completely different feeling than previous iPhones. Like usually the other ones were like really rounded.
hmm
You guys remember? I think it was the 4G that had like the like felt like holding a bar of gold
Yeah,
almost.
yeah, yeah. I know exactly. I used to love that style.
Yeah, they returned to that, and that's what's really great about that.
Fantastic.
And ergonomically speaking, too, this is the first iPhone. I've had a number of iPhones. Like, I
hmm
used to be an Android guy, and then I switched over to iPhone because I really believe that I should be seeing the same interface that most of our mobile readers have. And most of our mobile readers are actually on iPhone.
Yep.
Um, by slightly more than Android, but either way, I'm on iPhone. And this is the first iPhone where I feel I didn't actually need a case.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's
And it's
massive. Yeah.
partially because, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's partially because of the fact that like everything is so flat.
hmm
So like you can wrap your hand around it. The only thing that I'm sort of missing is when I was using the Sony, like I was holding it like this and the shutter button was over here.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and that was fun. I don't have that with this.
Right.
And that's really annoying. And if
You
I
can.
tried to do that, it would be like this and it would feel so weird.
Yeah. You can use the volume buttons, but yeah, it's really bizarre to use the volume buttons as the shutter.
It's also really bizarre to have the feeling of like the lens over here versus like over here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So ergonomically speaking, I think that this is a great phone for picture taking experiences. And I'm not just talking about like going around shooting like candids, but also like going around like I've sent the occasional selfie whenever like let's say I'm just messing around and like I'm eating a whole bunch of donuts, for example. I sent a photo of a bunch of donuts that I ordered to Brett the
Yes, you
other
did.
day. Um Ergonomically it feels fine, partially because of the fact that like everything is very like flat. I'm not usually a selfie taker once again, but if I'm taking actual photos like otherwise, let's say food, and you'll see a bunch of those probably in the review photos that I bring
hmm
up. It is very fun. And usually I'll shoot like this, using the screen, but you can also shoot like this using the little buttons, but I've never really felt the situation to really need to use the buttons.
hmm
I'm more okay with just using the actual like phone itself. Um, Another cool thing that you should know is Apple ProRAW has come, and I've made fun of the name ProRAW so many times. I think I almost lost it when it was announced. Because when Apple was talking about it, it was basically just like every photographer's like, "It's just raw.
Yeah.
That's it."
They reinvented the wheel, Chris. It's what Apple does.
Really?
Yeah. And then they charge a premium for it.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you want to access raw, like you have to go into your settings, you have to enable it, but then also you just tap that little man, I am so blind. You just tap the raw button up there
Uh-huh.
and then you get raw images. Then when you go into your camera roll, you finally get to see that something is a raw. And better yet, apps that you use to edit
hmm
will realize that that's a raw. Now, the phone has JPEG, HEIF,
hmm
um, RAW, and then Apple ProRAW.
Wow.
Apple ProRAW, I feel like that's one of the reasons why you would use an Apple device and get a phone like this to begin
hmm
with. You wouldn't necessarily do it for like regular RAW.
Right.
But what we were finding is ProRAW, even though it's ProRAW and like it's supposed to be better, it's not really all that much better, and it's still being held back by the fact that this is a phone sensor.
hmm
Camera wise, we have some weirder focal lengths, and actually, like, I'm probably going to reference my review for this. It was it was a 13 millimeter on the wide end, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, so it's a 13 millimeter on the wide, and it's f 2.4.
Okay.
Again, completely weird, but kind of cool. 16 millimeter, at least you think like, oh, a 16 to 35.
Exactly.
Yeah. Then there's a wide camera, and this is a 26 millimeter focal length, and it's f 1.6.
Hmm.
I guess that's okay. Like, I don't know why they couldn't just go like 24 or 28. Like 28 would have made so much sense.
Yeah, it's kind of a funky focal length.
Yeah. The other thing is this camera has sensor shift stabilization
Hmm.
in that one focal length. Now in the telephoto focal length, and they like to call it telephoto, but all of us otherwise know that it's not telephoto. It's a 65 millimeter focal length and it's f2.2. Um, that is more normalized focal length. At least all of us otherwise have just always known that that is a normalized focal length.
Yeah.
Again, they're sort of weird. You know, at least with Sony, like a 16, okay, 16 to 35, and then it's a 24, and then it's a 70. At least you know, like, okay, 24 to 70. With
Yeah.
this,
I was going to say, I'd love to know the reasonings why they chose those oddball focal lengths. It's kind of bizarre.
maybe they're Pentax fans.
I was just going to say that. It's kind of like they're limiteds.
Yeah, but it's not like a 31 or a 43 or anything like
Yeah.
that. I would have been cool with that.
Yeah. That's really bizarre, though. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, ease of use wise, I mean, it's just like any other Apple device. Pretty easy to use. You can adjust like brightness and all that. You can't adjust aperture, obviously, because these are phone cameras. And one
Hmm.
day maybe we'll get there, but we're not there yet.
Yep.
Autofocus wise, I actually think Sony edges out.
Really?
Yeah, over
Wow.
Apple.
Wow.
I think
Interesting.
it's something with like Sony's AI tracking and all
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. I think they brought it into the Xperia 1 Mark II. And like with Apple, Apple do this thing that Panasonic does where it's like it'll say it's in focus, but it's not actually in focus. Like
Hmm.
it'll sit there and it'll be like, oh, this is the face and this is the eye. And we're tracking the eye, but gotcha, we're actually tracking the tip of the nose.
Yep.
And I feel sort of like you remember in the I was gonna say in the DSLR days, but you still own a DSLR.
Yep, I do.
With Canon, I think it was called AF fine tuning
Yeah.
or no micro adjustment, right?
Micro adjustment. Yeah. For back and front focal
Yeah,
issues. Yeah.
that shouldn't happen with these phones, but I feel it happens with these phones sometimes.
Yeah, it really shouldn't at all. But yeah, I did actually notice that on an image I took of Sam yesterday with the Xperia as well, though. It showed the eye was in focus, took the picture, and when I looked at it, it wasn't at all. So I think that's maybe it's a phone issue somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's a processor issue or something like
Hmm.
that. I think also most people when they're shooting with their phones, they'll probably just sit there and they'll be okay with it, or they'll sit there and they'll be like tap, 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 and they'll have fun, you know?
Hmm.
Whereas us, we're just like, why isn't this working? I'm gonna throw this in the ocean, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, let's look at some images. That is not the right one. Can you confirm that you see the image of a church, Brett?
I do see it.
Wonderful. Okay, so this is edited.
Hmm.
This was not a RAW. This was a JPEG that I set with the phone, and I did it in my favorite editing app, which is called RNI Films.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like using their editor and then like applying film simulations and then just like messing with them. Some
Gotcha.
people will be like, "Why would you do that to a phone image?" And I'm like, "Why would you not?"
Exactly. That's what makes phones so great. You have so many options.
Exactly. Um, and this is ISO 640,
That looks
but
pretty
again, it's
good.
filtered.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is some of my favorite ice cream. Bottom is cardamom, and this one is ube, which is like a purple sweet potato.
Hmm.
Um, but the colors are nice.
Yeah, it looks great. And this is
Yeah.
a this was a JPEG as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This was edited. This was a JPEG as well.
Gotcha.
Um, Still fun. You know, it's what these phones are for.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
the I think this is the wide angle. This is
The 13.
60. Yeah, thank you.
It's nice and sharp, and you can read all the text absolutely just fine. It looks great.
Yeah. And again, that's that thing that I was saying with like Apple sometimes adding like a micro clarity and micro contrast and micro
Hmm.
sharpening. This another reason why I feel phones are such great tools for us. So whenever we're out reviewing cameras, sometimes we have to do weather sealing tests like this. And the best way to sometimes document it is to, you know, snap a photo with your phone.
Definitely.
And I did that with the GFX 50R. Like it was snowing, and I was like, okay, cool. Let me do this with the phone. And then
Hmm.
I did a quick edit again in R&I Films, got this nice photo, and you know, it's good enough for the web, which is most of where our work goes.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you got absolutely no issues publishing that on any website or any social media platform. It looks perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Again, just playing with the colors and like R&I Films, like
Hmm.
it's fun, you know.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's the part of smartphone photography that is just so fascinating to me. It's just how much fun it brings into the whole process.
Yeah, and you know what's really good? Like I had trying to remember what was my last iPhone. I think it was the 8 Pro.
Hmm.
And like there's something about the ergonomics on this where uh I won't accidentally get like fingerprint smudges
Hmm.
on the lenses. If I do, it's rare and it doesn't really affect it very much. But I'm not having to do that thing where like you sit there and like you clean the lenses all the time. Like
Oh yeah.
I remember I was at a concert a long time ago on a date, and like this woman, like she had like smears all across the camera lens, and
Hmm.
part of me is just like, oh Chris, don't say anything, don't say anything.
Meanwhile, part of your soul is dying.
You have no idea.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man.
Yeah. um Colors, once again, these are great.
Nice and vibrant.
Yeah, that red against the blue and like everything else.
Yeah, those purples really stand out. I love that.
Yeah, a tool, once again, like
Exactly.
it's practical.
Helps you get a job done.
Mm-hmm. There was a time where I actually decided that I would use an iPhone just to shoot like all of the product images for a review, and I don't think I've ever done it again. But
Hmm.
I mean, even if I did, I don't think the technology is totally there. Partially because I use a lot of flash in my product imagery.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, there are products out there that can help you do that now with phones as well, if you decide you want to do that.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that a little bit later. The ProPhoto, I own the ProPhoto B10 Lite, which is around the size of like a 70 to 200 lens.
Hmm.
And there is the ProPhoto app, which on the iPhone and actually on most Android phones lets you actually trigger the flash and have it like incorporate into the image on the phone. But
Hmm.
it's got varying degrees of success. Like sometimes you'll need to shoot a whole bunch of images to like have it calibrate, and then they changed their TTL algorithms recently, so they're better. But like the high speed sync just isn't there still.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll bring those photos up later. This was again during some snow. I shot this out the window of my office. Fun, you
Yeah,
know.
makes a nice black and white.
Yeah. This I'm trying to remember. I don't think this had a filter on it at all.
It looks great. I'm just looking at all the detail I was able to capture. It's really impressive.
Yeah, like all the garlic powder and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, if we were sitting here and you were telling me that was a phone image, I would have a hard time, believing it if I didn't know it. But just because of the amount of detail and the color rendering in it, it's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sometimes like it still does like some weird distortion things. Like this Perotha was actually like very circular, and over here
Hmm.
it's not shown that way.
Interesting. And this is on the wide angle.
I think it was. I don't totally remember.
Gotcha.
Knowing me, yeah, this probably no, this wasn't the wide angle. Actually, no, that was the wide angle. I'm sorry,
Okay.
it's a wide angle. Yeah,
That makes
It-
sense for it to be distorted kind of down at the bottom towards the edges then.
yeah. More than that too. Also, you can sort of see it from like here in terms of the perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, curry.
Yum.
Yeah, in the pandemic, what I've been doing is I've been documenting a lot of the stuff that I've been cooking, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's another reason why you would use a phone like this. Let's say you wanted to start like a cooking blog or a cooking channel or something like that. It's a great reason to. Like, people are doing it in the pandemic. A
Oh,
lot of people
definitely.
went around. There was that whole trend in the beginning where people were like making a whole bunch of sourdough bread.
Mm-hmm.
Phones are perfect for that.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah. This is paneer masala.
Looks delicious again.
Thank you.
I'm hungry.
These are around Christmas time. And this review is like a long-term thing. I've been using it for a while. This was Thanksgiving dinner, actually.
Gotcha.
Yeah. This is a walk in one of my favorite parks, Forest Park.
Again, there's a ton of detail in there.
Yeah.
And those colors, I mean, they look great as well.
Yeah. This is the portrait feature, which looks okay. This was edited in R&I films for color, but
Mm-hmm.
like I still don't think that it's like a real camera.
No.
Still
Does
good.
Oh, yeah, still great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the iPhone have a macro feature on it?
Barely.
Barely. Okay.
This is my room when I was deciding to like do some work to like fix it up and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just figured I'd mess with the colors a little bit. Well, no, sorry. Mess with the colors of my room. I didn't mess with the colors of this image at all.
Gotcha. Okay.
This is right out of the camera.
I like that one.
Yeah, it's the church right
Yeah.
by me. I'm no longer Catholic, but I grew into Catholic school, so churches do have like a very important part of
Mm-hmm.
who I am. Walking around, this is a neighborhood called Sunnyside right next to me.
Mm-hmm.
Again, really fun.
Yeah, I love those bursts on those lights.
Yeah, I think that was because of the one, it was kind of cold, two, it was raining.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting that happening, but I mean, it's a nice creative fact.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And this was ISO 1250.
That's not too shabby at all.
Yeah. This is a place that was near and dear to me growing up. It's called Queen Center Mall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This was a product shot that I did.
And this, it doesn't, I'm guessing it's like my iPhone in that it doesn't have any kind of manual mode, right?
Only in RAW, but like even then, like you can't really adjust like the shutter or anything like that. It's
Gotcha.
more like
Okay.
brighter or darker or something like that.
So if you wanted that, you'd have to download another app like Camera Plus or something like that.
Correct.
Yep.
Or the manual app, that is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just looking. Yeah, no, so you can do flash on or off. You can do live photo on or off,
Mm-hmm.
aspect ratio. You can tell it like brighter or darker, but you can't tell it otherwise, like exact shutter speed.
Gotcha.
And then while you're shooting, and Apple's had this for a while, you can like apply a filter.
Yes.
Yeah. And then again, you can tell it raw on, raw off.
Mm-hmm.
That's really about it. I think a lot of folks do use the Lightroom camera app.
Yeah, that does allow you to shoot RAW as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Pro Photo app is also pretty good as well too. But I think again, you get the most from it when you use a Pro Photo
Oh, definitely.
light. Just some product renderings, just to show you guys like what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
That's it in my hand. Notice how flat it is?
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now. I'm kind of jealous. I do love that style, man. Like I say, you just get such a better grip around the phone that way.
Yeah. I still think you need a screen protector.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have one on here, but like, you don't actually need like the case anymore.
Yeah, that's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks so much better.
Those are the cameras.
Hmm. Now,
You can see they've taken a little bit of a beating, but I mean, it's not affecting the image quality.
no, absolutely. And I was going to say this model has LiDAR as well, I believe, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. Did you
I'm really
notice
one. Go ahead.
to say, did you notice really any difference when you were using it with LiDAR?
Nothing really.
Nothing? Okay.
No. Um. Actually, that's a lie. The phone does tend to get very warm sometimes.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think it's extra processing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually like right around like under where the Apple logo is.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Another look at the phone once again. And
Mm-hmm.
we publish our full review of it on the site, so you can go check that out as well. Some more photos of the interface.
Mm-hmm. Nice and clean and simple.
Yeah. I mean, Apple's had that for a while. This is what it looks like with the wide angle view.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking there's such a stark contrast compared to the UI of Sony Pro, the app on this phone I have here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this, oh man. This is not even edited, but this was using the ProPhoto app in RAW,
Mm-hmm.
in ProRAW, and that's what it looked like basically right out of the camera.
Wow.
It was bad.
Yeah. It's
And
not the best
you
image I've
have to
seen.
edit it, really.
Yeah.
Like, you have to bring it into Lightroom in order to get something that looks better.
Mm-hmm.
I should have that there. Again, that looks pretty bad.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. This was it. I was trying it first in R&I Films because, again, it's my favorite app.
Mm-hmm.
Can't handle ProRAW. Lightroom can.
That's a
Now,
massive difference. Good
yeah,
grief.
this is not Lightroom though. This is using ProRAW indoors
Mm-hmm.
where it had better control over the lighting situation.
Gotcha.
So in that case, it does look good. My concern, I my skin does not pretty much match the color of my walls, but that's pretty much what's happening here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a shame.
So the color depth really isn't really there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, indoors. Yeah.
Yeah, it's having a lot of issues outside, isn't it?
It is. It is. Uh, like, I don't think that this phone is really there yet for flash use. And I mean, when we were talking with the pro photo reps, they were saying like, "Oh no, look at what this guy is doing with it." But like the guy that we were looking at, and I remember talking about this with you and Hillary,
Mm-hmm.
Brett. Um, the guy we were looking at, he was an Adobe creative director. He had Lightroom, and then he also used Photoshop. And I mean, I guess you could do that with everything, but like at that point, like what's the difference between like this and a dedicated camera? And the dedicated camera will still give you the much better starting point no matter what.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it was a shame that they were trying to reference someone who was obviously using composites to promote the product, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I guess that's where like the work that you, me, and Hillary do comes
Right.
in. Um, Overall, I like this phone.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I haven't been one of those people that's been like, I'm going to upgrade every year. To me, I think that's just silly. I think that it works very well. The cameras are very powerful. The video is very powerful. Uh, all the abilities of the phone are very good.
Mm-hmm.
it will not replace my dedicated cameras. It will work in conjunction with them to be a tool that helps my dedicated cameras. Um, I've used my dedicated cameras to beam images to this phone before and then post them to social media.
Right.
But I've also used this phone in video interviews where I hook up a lavalier mic and then put the phone in someone's pocket and it just records the audio no problem. So then
Hmm.
it syncs up with the video later on when I edit, and it's just worked. I haven't done that in a while, obviously, because COVID reasons.
Right.
But this phone is good. It's nothing revolutionary, I feel like the cameras are good, but again, they're not going to replace an actual camera. I feel like if there is something, let me back up. I still bring actual dedicated cameras with me. If there is something that is incredibly important to me, uh as small as like hanging out with friends, or like I'm planning with my friends to do a pizza tour of North Queens in like a month or so,
Hmm.
hopefully if the numbers go down. And to that I'll bring like a dedicated camera. I might even bring like an Instax camera with me as well too.
Right.
But if I just want to travel light and like uh I don't really necessarily care and I'm just being carefree, my phone is fine.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of why so many people just use their phones rather than going out and buying, say, a dedicated point and shoot these days.
Yeah. But that being said, point and shoots are very good these days. They all do have large sensors, or the most part they do.
Hmm.
Um, I don't own one. I thought about it. There have been many times where I've been very close to pulling the trigger on a Leica Q2. I haven't done it. But if I had the Leica Q2, I'd probably bring it with me everywhere. I'm not gonna lie.
Right. Well, I mean,
Um,
it's an expensive camera to just leave it at the house.
yeah, no, exactly. But since I don't, and sometimes I don't feel like bringing like my X Pro 3 or like my Sony A7R Mark III or like this EOS R5 or something
Hmm.
like that. And sometimes it's partially because of like the size, the difference between the weight of the lens and the body. The body might be too heavy or something like that.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'll bring cameras around because like we need to find a way to incorporate it into our lives to test. But
Definitely.
at those times where I don't, I think this is fine enough when I don't really need like an actual dedicated camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the convenience factor. They're great for that.
Yeah, and again, I think it's a great communication device and a great tool. It's a
Hmm.
great tool camera. It's not a great like 100% perfectly good image quality type of camera.
Right.
That's why you use dedicated cameras instead. So I like it. I just think that Apple needs to get off their high horse about ProRAW for sure.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of shocking to see the images you had some of them pro raw. I was expecting more out of it from all of the marketing hype, but then again, the marketing hype, they're very good at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see comments. Another big one. Mine is an iPhone SE. Those are nice.
Hmm.
I like small. Yeah. This is so this is the iPhone 12 Pro Max. This is chapstick. So it's larger than chapstick. And then thickness. Chapstick is maybe like, what is that, twice?
Yeah, about twice, I'd say.
Yeah. Dedicated eyeglass case. It's around the size of an
There
eyeglass
you go.
case.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Your eyeglass case looks about the same as the Xperia One too,
Yeah, that
in
makes
terms
sense.
of length and width.
Yeah. Um Cost. The 12 Pro Max comes in different configurations. I think I got the highest end one. I don't think it was in the $2,000 range, but it was pretty high. And I'm doing the Apple plan where like you pay it off as you basically like rent the phone.
Right.
Yeah. Um I honestly forgot. I did it back in November.
Probably like around the 1600-1700 bucks mark, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
But again, like when you do the renting thing, like you pay certain
Yeah.
amount and then you pay it off over time.
Hmm.
Yeah. But again, at least for me, like those costs are they're a tax write-off because it's part of doing business. Like I use the phone every day. I use it for emailing. I use it for calls. Like I call
Hmm.
you every day.
Yep, absolutely.
Um I use it for documenting reasons. I use it for video sometimes. I use it to run the site at times. I use it to share stuff from the site. It it's justifiable.
Oh, definitely, absolutely. There's so many things. They're great for photography, but there's so many other things they can do as well, which makes them worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me check Facebook. I don't think we do have comments. We made it to the portion of the show where Chris makes us all agree with his food shots.
Yep.
Thank you, folks. I've been critiqued that I should actually like create more like food porn photos, but I've never actually done those. Like like having like cheese like really stretched out. Like I haven't
Uh-huh.
always done those. I've just been like, no, this is a nice presentation. That's about it.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun to play with.
Yeah. I feel like if I do that though, I'd probably that's something where I'd be important, like talking about like dedicated
Hmm.
camera, like uh, we're currently in the process of revamping like some of the things that we do. So like our reviews, for example. And one of my ideas that I ran by Brett and Hillary, and I was overwhelmingly shot down on this, was that we should do personal projects in our reviews. And they were like, yeah, we don't always have time for that. I'm like, yeah, no, I understand that. But like sometimes it's just like incorporating it like your daily documentary or something like that. They're like, yeah,
Hmm.
no. I'm like, fine, you win. But like in a situation like that, where I would create like the photos of like, that stretchy cheese, like that
Hmm.
porn photo, a food porn photo rather.
Yeah,
That's when I would use a dedicated camera. I would not use this phone for that because that image is something that means a lot more to me. It's something that I have to perfect and I have to care about
definitely.
versus just like doing like a quick snapshot and a filter.
Yep, that makes total sense. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So we hope that you folks enjoyed this episode, talking about phones quite a bit. I know that, we usually talk about like, we've been on this whole bender of AI and sometimes ethics and, different cameras and lenses, but we're expanding the coverage, we might as well talk about something a little bit different. These are still cameras. They're
Definitely. And
important.
just, the fact that almost everyone has a smartphone in their pocket at any one time, smartphone photography is huge, and it's huge for a big reason.